Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Friday, October the 10th, 2025. Continue our conversation of personality types and the different preferences. So on Tuesday, we talked about extroversion or introversion, the preference pairing that deals with how we are energized, either from the external world or from the internal world. Then yesterday, we talked about sensing or intuition. This preference pairing deals with how we gather information, either through our five senses, the S, or through hunches, analogies, connections, the N, kind of the sixth sense. Today we're going to talk about the difference of preferences and the preference pairing of thinking or feeling. This preference pairing deals with how we make decisions, either by using objective logical principles, the T, the thinking, or by considering the impact of each alternative on the people who are involved. It's not that there's no thought behind it, but it's not strictly logical thinking. It's how's this going to be received? How's it going to affect people? How are they going to do their feelings have an impact, or their reception of this decision is going to have an impact. And so, again, the thinking preference is logical, analytical. Ideas, for data and things. Fair, but firm. Business first. Recognition comes from exceeding requirements and expectations. It's all about analyzing. It's about being impartial. It's about deciding with your head, finding the flaw, and then it deals with reasons. You're putting the reasons for making a decision. Going back to that finding the flaw reminds me, as a young pastor, I learned an important lesson. We had a council, and we would get into these big, long, drawn-out discussions, sometimes bordering on fights. And some of us, didn't understand why others didn't. Were kind of picking apart our ideas. It turns out that somebody finally explained it to me. We had a number of engineers that were on the council, and I didn't realize it, but engineers are wired very much with the thinking, although I'm a T as well. You describe a possibility or an idea, and the engineer is gonna try to find 100 ways why it's not going to work. Doesn't mean that they don't want to do it, but they identify those things and work through the answer or the workaround or whatever is involved. So, it's very much a head thing. It's finding the flaw and then eliminating it, improving the situation. So, some examples of thinking types or T's. Moses, visionary leader, known for strategic planning and independent thinking. Again, it wasn't all by himself, but was he a good choice of God to be the person to do this and to work through all of the decisions that had to be made? Very much so. Deborah, the one of the judges, the female judge of the Old Testament, who was a decisive and authoritative prophetess and judge who demonstrated strong leadership and strategic abilities. And then Solomon, King David's son Solomon, who's considered to have strategic leadership and decisiveness. So then the other preference type that's paired with it is feeling. So here, instead of being logical and analytical, the feeling type people are about creating harmony and being very personal. Ideas are about people, being empathetic, camaraderie first, not just making the decision isolated from other people, but having the whole group be part of your considerations. Instead of recognition for exceeding requirements, it's about praise for personal effort. Sympathize rather than analyze, subjective rather than impartial, deciding with the heart instead of the head, which is what the thinkers do. Instead of finding the flaws in an idea or a proposal, it's finding the positive, kind of looking at it differently. And it's more, the feelers are more about values than reasons. Again, not that the thinkers don't have values and the feeling types don't have reasons, but it's what tends to maybe have more of an impact. And so when we get into the feeling types, again, Jesus, he's often seen as being an empathetic and compassionate figure, driven by his life's purpose to help and to save people, which is very interesting because we live in a time where there are those Christians who would have us think that Jesus was very judgmental and legal and so forth, when really the opposite was true. Samuel, the prophet, was a compassionate and visionary leader, guided by principles and intuition with a deep spiritual burden for his people. Think of Samuel and the choice of David to be the king. There, ultimately God guided him to pick the person who was the right person, and not the person, to use a popular quote these days, out of central casting that David's brothers were. Ruth and Naomi were definitely people with the feeling type. They embodied loyalty, deep personal values, caring for others, caring for each other in a very special kind of way. So again, thinkers and feelers. It's not right or wrong. We all exhibit both of these preferences, but some of us lean more towards the thinking and others towards the feeling. All right, we've got one more day, one more set of preferences. I'll be back with you tomorrow to talk about those. Bye.